I call to order this meeting of the Board of Zoning and Building Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville. Could you please call to order?
Kane is excused. Ali is absent. Kimball.
Here.
Thibodeau.
Here.
Masterson.
Here.
Members of the administration, Council Liaison Winkle.
Here.
Chief Building Official Fursden.
Here.
Assistant Law Director Morgan. Here. Planning and Development Director Lieber.
We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we don't have anybody here for, I'm sorry, meeting minute notes. I make a motion, or does anybody have any additions or corrections to the meeting minutes? If not, I make a motion to accept as submitted. We don't have anybody here to give us a planning commission report?
No, we don't.
Okay. Any other reports or correspondence?
We got one.
Okay.
The next in-person meeting for steering committee in North Ridgeville will be Thursday, October 19th from 6 to 8. It'll be in council chambers right here.
Thank you very much. Master plan update? Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have anything to add. I'm sorry. Okay. Public hearings?
Okay, applicant number 1, PPZ 2023-0218, Raymond Tumdry, 7499 Race Road, PPN 07-00-034-000-093. Applicant Dave Burkholder, Burkholder's Custom Construction, 746 US 250 North, Ashland, Ohio 44805. Proposal consists of constructing a second outbuilding of 1,200 square feet, property zoned R1 Residence District. Requests: 1, a 2.6 variance for lot coverage of a residential lot with an outbuilding. Code permits 10%, applicant shows 12.6%, section 1294.03E4.
Okay. Anybody that wants to speak on behalf of this application, please come forward so I can swear you in. Anybody who's going to talk? Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you are about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
I affirm.
Okay. And then I need your name and address for our secretary, please.
Sure. Dave Burkholder from Burkholder's Custom Construction. Our address is 746 US 250 North, Ashland, Ohio 44805.
Okay, thank you. And then, sir?
No.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you are about to make before the Zoning and Building Board of Appeals for the City of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
Yes.
Okay, and then I just need you to state your name and address for the...
Ray Tumbry, 7499 Race Road, North Ridgeville.
Okay, thank you very much. So I stopped by the house last night.
Yep.
Introduced you to my lovely little dog, Isabel.
Yep.
Okay, she wasn't in the bike and she wasn't in a basket. So you want to tell me a little bit about your application?
Car storage. I have too many cars.
Okay,
That's because I have cars at my mother's house. She's getting old. I need to move them. So that's all.
okay,
There's classic cars.
okay. So if you guys want to move a little bit closer to the microphone. So when I went out there, you do have quite a bit of property between the houses.
Yes.
And the character of your neighborhood's a little interesting.
Yes, it is.
It's a mixture of commercial and residential. And the variance that you're asking for is a 2.6% variance. I don't even know how you can make the building smaller to make, okay.
Yes.
I don't have any other questions. Does anybody of the board have any other questions? Anybody from the administration? Anybody in the audience want to speak on behalf of this matter? Okay. Chair will, I'm sorry. You-
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out something because you have two proposals for outbuildings and you might have noticed that they're written up differently on the agenda. So I just wanted to point out in this case that because the lot is over a half acre, we use the 10% of lot coverage standard rather than just a flat square foot. So for your benefit, you've been through this. The board has been through this before, but for others in the audience or for those that might watch the meeting or see the agenda, I just wanted to point out it's that half acre. Above a half acre, we use the percentage base, and below the half acre, we use the square footage. So I just want to put that on the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything to say? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion. I make a motion to accept.
Second?
Will the clerk please take roll?
Kimball,
Yes.
Thibodeau,
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. You guys can pick up your application with the building department tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, cool.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, will the clerk please read the next applicant?
PPZ 2023-0220, Gregory Shoup, 7118 Will Lou Lane, PPN 07-00-016-110-030. Proposal consists of constructing a 1,120 square foot outbuilding, property zoned R1 Residence District, requests a 444 square foot variance for size of an outbuilding. Code permits 676 square feet. Applicant shows 1,120 square feet. Section 1294.03E2. Note, outbuilding is 40 foot by 28 foot, which is also in excess of the allowable 26 feet by 26 feet dimensions.
Okay, is there anybody that's gonna wanna speak on behalf of this? So anybody that's gonna speak, I'm gonna have to swear you in, okay? All right, do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to make before this zoning and building board of appeals for the city of North Ridgeville are true as you shall answer unto God or under the penalties of the law of perjury?
Yes.
And then could you please state your name and address for the clerk?
Gregory Shoup, 7118 Willow Lane, North Ridgeville, Ohio, 44039.
Okay, can you give us a little explanation of why you want?
I'm a union carpenter by trade. I've acquired a lot of tools over the years, and I just need a place to store them. And along with lawn equipment and everything else, that I would just like to combine the total two allowable outbuildings of 26 by 26 into one larger building.
Okay, well, you hit on a very important aspect of the building. Just to clarify, Mr. First, and he is allowed to have two outbuildings, is that correct?
He's allowed one outbuilding and one detached garage, both 676 square feet,
So that would be a total of
over
1,200.
1,300 square feet.
Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. So in the past, we have looked at an application. So it's a couple different things. We don't generally like to see really large variances. And if you take it by just addressing the one building, it sounds like a very large variance. But in the past, the board, which we don't always take into consideration our past considerations, but we'd much prefer to have one building rather than two buildings. And that's my opinion. Anybody in the board want to have any conversation or anything you want to add? Anybody from the administration?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do think that this is more of a neighborhood feel, a more residential area than perhaps other areas of the community where it's a combination of residential, commercial feel. It is a significant variance. If you would look at it from a lot coverage standpoint with the dwelling, with the garage and all that, we're talking about close to 20% or potentially more. So I think it is, when you look at it that light, it feels very substantial in my mind. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Lieber, is chief building official First incorrect in he's allowed to have two separate buildings?
Our code allows a detached garage and an outbuilding. Of course, a garage would have a driveway to it and house vehicles only. Would be the intended purpose. So, yes, our code does allow both, but in this case, it's an outbuilding proposal. And if, if this were granted, it doesn't foreclose the applicant from proposing also a detached garage in the future.
So he would be, if we granted this, you're saying that he would be allowed to build another building?
Yes, a detached garage.
But then wouldn't it apply the fact of a certain amount of lot coverage?
Under a half acre, we do not use that 10% lot coverage scenario.
So he technically could build this very large structure and then add another smaller structure?
Unless the board placed a condition of approval that wouldn't allow any additional detached garage to be constructed.
Okay.
That was my original intention also, is instead of 2 outbuildings, I would only be allowed 1, and that would be it.
Well, Ms. Lieber brought up a very good point, and that is that if we allowed you to build a large structure, that still gives you the option of building an additional building, which is a concern. Trying to think. Any suggestions, gentlemen?
I have one question for the law department, if I could. Are we permitted to make a condition, even though this is not a conditional use variance? Because I know that's been an issue in the past, and there's been some confusion and gray areas with that. Want to make sure if we did do some sort of action like that, we'd be okay.
We generally discourage conditions on a variance because it runs with the land, and even if he weren't there, somebody else would still be stuck with whatever conditions we put on it. I would leave it to the wisdom of the board, whether or not in this instance, I don't, as all of you go to the property and you can see it in context with the rest of the area, whether it would be something appropriate to the area or not. But you're correct, it's not unheard of, but it's not something that we generally do.
Okay, thank you.
Would you want to amend your application and say that this would be the only structure that you would build and you would not build any other additional structures?
Absolutely.
Law department, is that something that we can, that the applicant can do?
Well, he did, actually, I was going to say, it wasn't exactly his idea, but on the other hand, it was. He did mention that first.
That
So.
was a note that I had put in when I originally applied for it, was that I would like to combine both allowable buildings into one.
And not build any, you would not
Nope.
build any additional?
So if that's what he's asking for, we're giving him what he's asking for, as opposed to putting a condition on it. He is asking for this one building only without any others.
Is the way that his application, that's my concern.
Madam Chair, I think in this case, I think a condition could be appropriate. We've seen cases where one property owner obtains a variance under a certain type of presentation and set of facts, later sells the property, and then the new property owner comes in. This has happened recently.
Like 2 months ago.
So statements made by the applicant at a board meeting are not binding. Only motions made by the board are binding on this property.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so when you make the motion to approve, you can make the motion to approve the application that he asked for, but stated as a condition of your approval, that be what you're offering him.
Because that's exactly where I'm going with, and it's exactly, when we had an applicant, the applicant, who was a different property owner, gave us one set of, told us what he was gonna do, he sold the building, and what we had talked and discussed about was no longer binding. Anybody in the audience have anything to speak on behalf? Okay. Gentlemen? No further comments? Okay, I am going to make a motion that we accept his proposal as presented with the condition no additional outbuildings can be constructed. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Kimball,
No.
Thibodeau,
Yes.
Masterson.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Motion passed.
Fails. It has to be unanimous when there's only 3 of you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Okay, is there anything else in front of the board? Okay,
What would I have to do to move forward at this point? So now I'm still allowed my 2 outbuildings of 26 by 26. Would I be able to build one and then build an addition onto it?
that you would have to discuss with the board, or with, I'm so sorry. You would have to discuss that with the chief building official first,
Okay.
okay? Is there anything else that? Okay,